Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Uncle Mad here for our weekly jump on live stream previewing what's coming up this weekend for Nashville SC tomorrow. Not today. Last week it was a Saturday. It's almost always going to be a Saturday, but this week the boys in gold have a Sunday afternoon clash against the Philadelphia Union. On the road, we go up to Philly to take on the Union. The Union, what a start to the season for them. 3-0, scoring bucket loads of goals. They are on fire. Nashville SC will have a tough test. Hang on, I'm going to look at something real quick because I want to make sure I am pronouncing things right. So let me make sure I have what I need pulled up. Boy, let's look at last week first before we go to Philadelphia. Last week, review, recap. The boys in gold welcomed the Portland Timbers to Geodis Park. Fun match. We said in club section, had a really great experience there. You can go back and watch that video on the channel here. If you missed it, make sure you check it out. It was fun. Food, not the best food we've had at Geodis Park. Not going to lie about that, but the match was great. Arguably one of the more dominant performances we've seen from Nashville SC. Short-term memory loss, who knows, but in our history, that had to be one of the most dominant. Like, could it easily been 4-5-0, missed 2 penalties, and still won 2-0. That should tell you all you need to know there. But a great start to the boys in gold getting onto the track. We talked about it last week. We said they need to get goals. They need to really hit the ground running, really get things going there. But they did. 2-0 win. Would have liked to get a few more, probably, obviously. But, still, we'll take it. We got the big win there. Portland, man. If I was a Portland Timbers fan, I would probably be a little bit concerned just because that's probably, they had the big, got smashed by Vancouver in the first match, and then that one against us. Granted, they're missing their top striker, Ramirez, so, maybe you can, kind of hang your hat on. Once he comes back, you'll be a little bit more aggressive. You'll be a little bit more involved in the attack. But, they did nothing in that match. Like, there was that one free kick they had that was pretty deep in our territory that looked like they might have something to do there. But outside of that, they it's hard to remember a team doing less in a match than what they did against us. But, we took advantage of the situation. Mike Sam looked great. Tag Seth dropping into midfield looked great. Ani was flying around. Sam was flying around. Just immediately, we got the 2 penalties just because we were putting so much pressure on them. They had no choice but to try to get away with some fouls in the box type stuff. So really good performance of the boys in gold, but it's hard to really gauge how good just because Portland was so bad. But kind of following along, going into what we saw with Red Bull, the first road match, Philadelphia on the road. It's going to be another huge test for the boys in gold. They've been, as good as any team in MLS so far this season, 3-0-0 on the season, scoring bucket loads of goals. This is the guy whose name I want to look up, Ty Barabow. I probably mispronounced that game. 5 goals already. 5 goals in 3 matches. What a start to the season for Philadelphia. And it's interesting because you probably, on paper, just looking at what happened in the offseason for them, would not have thought this would have been the best start or would not have been the best season for them. They, fired their longtime steady Eddie head coach, Jim Curtin, a guy who, BJ Callahan, our newish coach here at Nashville SC, he kind of comes from the Curtin tree. A lot of shock, a lot of surprise when that move went down, but whether it's just, new energy, new voice, new whatever, keeping them going right now, they've hit the ground running this offseason. They sold one of their better players. I believe it was Carranza midway through last season, which also kind of brought them into a weird spot. But, you look at the 2 teams that have been on fire out of the gates, them and Miami, not too much of a surprise on the fact that they've kind of done it without Messi. And they've done it while having a player get red carded in every single match. But Philadelphia, I think a lot of people are going to be down on Philadelphia this season just because, the change in coach, the, maybe not any kind of big, surprising, shocking, sexy move by them in the offseason. But, they've hit the ground running. They've beat, New England. Can't remember who else, but, they've gotten good wins, 3-0-0. That's it. You can't ask for a better start to the season, and they're just scoring bucket loads of goals. I think it'll be a little bit more of an even test with, Nashville and some of the teams they've played so far. Obviously, our defense has been pretty strong so far this season. The attack looked like it's starting to come together a little bit in the last couple matches. We saw the goals finally come last week. Like I said, could have had more, missed 2 penalties. How do you do that? That's pretty impressive. That's impressive in and of itself to miss 2 penalties in a match. Yeesh. But it's going to be tough because they're going to be, a little bit more like New York, a little bit more pressing. They're not going to sit back and just hope for the best the way Portland kind of did, which was don't really know what that was all about. Don't really know what their strategy was there. Don't really know what they hope to accomplish. But Philadelphia is definitely going to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more coming after us. But I think we're going to, deal with it a little better than we did against New York because, we've got the more veteran lineup in the midfielders. Yazbak's been back in the last couple of matches. Gaston Brugman came in late last match. He's back off the injury report. I don't think he'll start. I think we'll probably stick with the same lineup we had against Portland. Just, why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of decision there. But, as much as I enjoyed what we saw in those first couple of matches from Cochran and Meyer, the 2 young midfielders we were playing, I think we're in a lot better position with the lineup, with the setup we're going to have in this match. So, predictable lineup for me, Nashville SC, I think they'll stick exactly the same as they played against Portland Timbers. So we'd have Tagseth, Yagbek. It's hard to say those 2 names together. Center mids, wings, Kassam on one side, Muil on the other. Up top, you're going to have Hani and Sam, obviously. The back line, same as we've had. Surge, he's not the back line. Zimmerman, Meyer, Lovitz, and Andy Nahar, which he's gotten called up by the Honduras national team, but they're giving him extra time to stay with us, so he's going to play the match with us and then head off to join them, so he'll miss their first match of their little international window coming up, which, hate it for them, like it for us. But same team we saw last week. I think we'll do pretty well. I could see this game going a lot of ways. I think both teams have goals in them now. I think we've kind of broken the dam. We're going to start getting goals more than you would expect from a Nashville SC team. Just gut reaction, gut instinct. I want to say 2-2. 2-2 result. It's going to be a tough one on the road. Philadelphia, a lot of momentum, a lot of energy, but I think we can hold them in check a little bit more than maybe some of the teams they've played so far defensively, and I think we can add a goal or 2 for ourselves. So I'm predicting a 2-2 scoreline there. It's going to be interesting as we go into the next couple of weeks, starting to see, as we get healthier. Gaston Brugman, like if you watch the Maiden Gold kind of preview series they did throughout the preseason, Gaston Brugman seems like a really important player that BJ Callahan and Mike Jacobs really wanted to bring to Nashville. So you would think he is going to come into the lineup at some point in time. I don't think it's going to be this week, just because I don't think they're going to rush things on that front. But when he comes in, who drops out? Does Tagseth move up? Does Kassam drop back out and Tagseth moves back to the wing? Does Kassam drop out just because he's kind of fresh into the team himself? Does Muil drop off? I have a long history of not being the most positive Alex Muil guy. So it's going to be interesting as we get healthy, as we get more players available. It's going to be interesting. One of the reasons I kind of had a slight delay in this, I was waiting for the injury report to come out, and pretty solid injury report for Nashville SC. No questionable players, no doubtful players, only out. The players we knew who were out were staying out. Brian Acosta still out, but at this point, with what we've seen from the depth of the players we have in midfield, kind of, don't mind him not being there, and think we can survive without him. The only other 2 that we have on our injury report this week still out, Maximus Eck and Tyler Boyd, both long-term coming off of ACL injuries. So it'll be a while before we see either one of them, so no surprises there. So, Schaffelberg, that's the big change, the big update, and Brugman as well. Both of them no longer listed as questionable, completely off the injury report, but I wouldn't expect either one of them to jump into the starting lineup. Like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Ride with what worked last week and start to kind of tweak and change as you need to throughout the match. So interesting match coming up. Like I said, I'm thinking we can play pretty level with them, but it'll be tough. I have a hard time seeing us winning this match because I think we're a work in progress still. I think there's still learning curve, time adjustments, things. I don't know if those words all go together, but I think there's baby steps are being taken. I don't know if we're at the point where we can go to the team that's looked like one of the most dominant teams in the league so far and win on the road right out of the gates right now. But I think we can hang with them. I think we can keep it tight. I think we can play good enough defense to kind of sneak in, steal a point, 2-2 draw. That's my prediction for the match. Don't have a whole lot else to say about it. It's still early days. We're kind of just rolling through the season, kind of going off what we see match to match. Not a whole lot of new information, new things that are changed from week to week. But, like we said, encouraging signs from Nashville SC. That's all we got from there. One thing I did want to do on this stream, and this is great for like a kind of, we're hitting the point of the season where there's no, like I said, there's not a whole lot new to say. We're kind of just reacting off what happened last week, kind of, boosting from there. going on and what might happen next. So somebody commented on the chat on one of my previous videos. Let me see. I'm going to probably make sure I pronounce this correctly. Joseph Remondelli 7421. Sorry if I mispronounced anything in there. Commented on the last game day vlog. He said, solid win. Idea for your next live stream match preview. What is your Nashville all-time starting 11? Was making mine and curious what you would have in there. I've been thinking about this. He posted this a few days ago on one of my videos, and I've been thinking about this all week, and I've just been kind of going back and forth because we have 5 full seasons of Nashville SC, so it's still young club, early days, new stuff, but it's a fun exercise that I think we can do at this point in time. I think we can kind of, for the first time, look over the few seasons and kind of go through and say who are the best 11 if you put together the best 11 from the short but starting to build history of Nashville SC. And I've got some ideas there. I'll kind of go through it here in a second. I think there's probably there's 5 or 6 spots that I think are just locked in. You're not going to have much debate about, but there's some you can kind of argue and have some fun with. Let's see. Oh, we got a first comment in here. Joe jumps in and says, interesting to see what we look like when we get Schaff and Boyd back. I think the most exciting thing there is just we're having depth. We're going to have depth in terms of attacking players for the first time, realistically, in Nashville SC history. Schaffelberg, I'll talk about a little bit about him when we get into like the all-time 11, but, always been a spark plug. I almost kind of, I'm sure he wants to be a starter. I'm sure, he's a fan favorite. We got the dogs getting involved in the chat now. But I almost think, at this point right now where we're at, I'm excited for him to be a player we can pull off the bench, the speed, the pace, him running at tired defenders. That's an exciting thing we have coming forward. And Boyd, I don't think, unfortunately with the ACL injury he suffered last year and kind of the mid-season change we went through with the coaching staff overhaul and everything, I think we haven't seen the best of Tyler Boyd yet for Nashville SC. I really was excited when we signed him. I thought he was going to be legitimately one of the, kind of things we've been missing all these years is like a kind of third or second, type attacking option, like legit attacking option behind like Hani and whoever the striker is. So definitely excited to see both of them come back into the team as they get healthy. But to the best 11 in Nashville SC history, the all-time Nashville SC best 11. If anything pops up in the chat, we'll go back to that as we always do. We'll play along with that, but I want to kind of hit on this. So starting from the back, working our way up. Obviously, goalkeeper, it's got to be Joe Willis. There's just no other choice. He's the only starting goalkeeper in Nashville SC history. Elliot Panico briefly knocked on the door, briefly kind of, maybe, pushed him just a little bit. It was like a month at most, like during like the League Cup final period where he came in. Looked pretty good in that tournament, but outside of that, Joe Willis has been unquestionably the best, the starting goalkeeper. There's no way you can pick anybody other than him for your all-time Nashville SC 11. It'll be interesting because I think it'll be a while before anybody can unseat him because just, I don't know if he's been the, the most spectacular, high-level goalkeeper. We're going to come up against one, Andre Blake for the Philadelphia Union, one of the best goalkeepers, in MLS and, recent memory. But, Joe has just been solid, just reliable, just, at no point in Nashville SC's history have they ever had to say we need to do something in the goalkeeper position. We're worried about the goalkeeper position because, Joe Willis has always held it down. He hasn't been, like I said, not highest level, not the most elite, but just a solid, reliable goalkeeper that you can always trust, always have back there. The foot skills, the, passing range. In modern football, you want a little bit more from your goalkeeper than what we probably get from Joe Willis, but still, he's without question the best goalkeeper we've had in our history. Moving up the back line, it's going to get interesting. Like when you're building a best 11, what are your formation? What are you going to do? I'm going to go 4-4-2 just because in some form or fashion, that's kind of what Nashville SC has always played, whether it was 4-4-2 in a diamond, 4-4-2 with wings. We've always pretty much been a 4-4-2 period team with a few, maybe year 1 and 2, we were more of a 4-2-3-1, but I'm going 4-4-2. So we're starting with the back line here. No question, Walker Zimmerman, he's in there. He's when he's been healthy, when he's been there, when he's been available, he is, 2-time MLS Defender of the Year. There's unquestionable that, he would be in that lineup. There's just no other choice there. But his partner, who you're going to put with him, is where it gets interesting. I think there's 3 candidates for who's your other center back in this choice going to be. I think it's Jack Meyer, I think it's Lucas McNaughton, and I think it's Dave Romney. And I'm going Dave Romney. I just won't, beat around the bush or pull any surprise there. The stretch, the first, whatever it was, 2-3 seasons when Zimmerman and Romney were our center back pairing, we were arguably one of, if not the best defense in MLS. And like Romney played, I want to say every minute. I don't know if that streak ever got broken, but for a while he had played every minute for Nashville SC. And so that says something there. I think you can definitely see there was a point where the defense got a little shaky when we traded him to New England. But I also think, giving back credit to Walker, making sure that he is a clear-cut guy who's got to be in there. Romney hasn't been as good in New England as he was for us. I think he was not as good in his days in Los Angeles before he came to us. There's something about playing with Zimmerman that makes everybody look better. Jack Meyer, 100 times, I think I mispronounced his name every time I say it, but he's 100 times better when he's playing with Zimmerman than when he's playing with somebody else. Josh Bauer looks like an incredible center back when he's playing with Zimmerman. Lucas McNaughton, another journeyman who never really did anything, suddenly he gets paired with Zimmerman. He looks great. So I think there's almost like, an unfair bias of like, whoever plays with Zimmerman is going to be a great center back, is going to look like a better center back than they probably are. But of the choices available, I think Dave Romney was the best. I also like the kind of dynamic of Zimmerman right-footed center back, Romney left-footed center back. I like that, Romney had the long throw-ins. I always think that's like a weapon that's not used enough in professional soccer. I coached high school soccer for years, and the first thing we would do at the start of the season was try to figure out who had the best long throw-in, because that could be such a weapon, especially like back in the day, like here in Tennessee. A lot of teams back in the day, it's less of this now, but you should play on football field, so they were like narrower than soccer fields. So like if you had somebody who could chuck a throw in, you could hit the penalty spot with a throw in. It was basically like a dangerous corner kick every single time. But I'm surprised that doesn't get used more at the professional level. But Dave Romney, he's going to be my second center back. Left back, no other choice. Similar to Joe Willis and Walker Zimmerman, it's got to be Dan Lovitz. Shout out Taylor Washington, great player, great servant to the community, great, going back to the USL days, even piece of Nashville SC history. But, Dan Lovitz has been our first choice left back the entire time we have been an MLS team. And I debated, how do we want to count the USL days? Unfortunately, as much as I wish I wasn't around for the pre-USL days as much. So, but if you're looking at best 11, you're picking the best players possible. So USL players, with, a few exceptions, aren't going to be able to be on the level of players that have played at the MLS level for Nashville SC. So shout out Taylor Washington. He's been a great squad player, a great player to have on the roster, but there's no question Dan Lovitz is the first choice left back of the entire history of Nashville SC. So he has to be in the best 11. Swinging to the other side, right back. This is another one where you've got a debate. I think there's three players in the mix. Apologies to Eric Miller. You're not one of them. But I think it's obviously Alistair Johnson, Shaq Moore, and the new guy, Andy Nahar. I'm going to go and say this because I'll pull this up right now because we got a Boss Baby in the chat said, I believe Eddie can score a goal tonight. A goal. Well, it'll be tomorrow. We don't play till tomorrow. It's a weird week where one of the few times this season we don't have the regular Saturday evening game. We've got Sunday afternoon tomorrow against Philadelphia. And Eddie Tagseth, Ahmad Kassam, Andy Nahar, even Yazbek, new guys we're pretty excited about that I think are going to be really good. Maybe have a chance. I made a rule for myself when I was kind of deciding who I wanted in my best 11. You have to have played a full season for Nashville SC for me to consider. But I think Eddie Nahar, already 3 games, pretty impressive. He would be knocking on the door if I hadn't made that kind of unofficial rule of you have to play a full season before I'll put you in the best 11. So really, then it comes down to Alistair Johnson versus Shaq Moore. And I'm going Alistair Johnson. I don't think Shaq Moore ever hit the levels we expected from him. I don't ever think he lived up to the hype of what we wanted from him. Alistair Johnson, it's kind of different levels, but he's still, regular first choice player for the Canadian national team. Shaq Moore is kind of on the fringes of the U.S. national team at this point in time. Shaq Moore is at FC Dallas. He had kind of washed out of Europe. I think if Alistair Johnson was a little bit younger, he would have a chance to move up the ranks in Europe. I didn't even realize this until I was starting to look into this stuff, but Alistair Johnson's 27. I guess because he went through college, he came into the professional maybe a little bit older than what you'd expect a player to. But I was thinking, he's been at Celtic a couple of years. He's had a good run there. He's been successful there. He's probably maybe got a shot to go like a mid to lower tier Premier League team or even Spain, Italy, something like that. But then I was like, he's 27. He still could make a jump from Celtic to somewhere else, but he's older than I thought he was. But the fact that he's still playing over there, playing at a high level, and Shaq Moore is at FC Dallas is, I think that tells you a lot. But I think Alistair Johnson was just a stud. Just his debut, the way he came into the team. kind of unexpectedly. I think we even were like maybe planning to loan him out, and then we needed him because there was an injury to who we thought was going to be our starting right back. Maybe that was Eric Miller. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but Alistair Johnson right back for me. So that moves into midfield, and I'm going with the midfield 2 and 2 wide players. Midfield 2, I think, similar to kind of the other areas of the field with this lineup, with this formation, I think it's pretty clear cut who the 2 players there have to be. For me, it's Dax McCarty and Al Godoy. I don't think you can choose anybody else outside of those 2 just because, Sean Davis's first season here, he hit the ground running. He was really great that first season. I thought he was going to be the perfect signing for Nashville SC as kind of like a long-term replacement for Dax. And I don't really know what happened. I don't know if it was kind of a situation where the next season we went to that diamond midfield, and I don't know if that really fit his skill set the best. Maybe his confidence dropped. He had some injuries. Year 1, Sean Davis was in the mix, was knocking on the door for that, but, didn't sustain it, didn't go beyond that. And outside of that, who else you can look? Brian Onunga, kind of a villain, kind of a not popular person amongst Nashville SC fandom. I like him. I think he was a good squad player, but I just think he ended up having to play more than he probably should have, just, because of injuries, forms, stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty clear if you're going with a midfield 2, the 2 you'd have to almost choose. There's got to be Dax and Al Godoy. So we got 2 wide players. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Because we've had some really solid wide players, but it's almost as I was kind of thinking through who to choose. It kind of was a testament to the fact that we have not hit the levels of those attacking players maybe we should, because the players that I we're looking at kind of settle on all have flaws, all have issues, all aren't like superstar high level players. I'm gonna go just the first one. I'm just gonna, and I'll kind of talk through the other side. I picked Fafa Bako. 1 season. I mean, that's kind of that's probably the only fault you could probably give him if you're picking a best 11 for Nashville SC, was that he was only here for 1 year, but maybe that was to his benefit in a ranking like this, because we never saw like the lows, we never saw like a injury plague season, we never just saw like a bad Fafa Bako season. He had 1 season here, he was really good. I think he scored like 6 or 7 goals, something like that, had a solid season. Moved on, went to Vancouver. Now he's hitting in Miami. But that 1 season, he was a fan favorite, an electric player, pace all over the place. Kind of our best secondary attacking option that year behind Hani. So, it was only for 1 year. I put Fafa Bako as one of my wingers in my best 11 for Nashville SC. Flipping over the other side, this is, as crazy it is to put him in as a 1 year kind of wonder. I think this is a testament to the lack of, attacking prowess, a lack of quality attacking players that we have in Nashville SC over the years. But the other side, I think there's 3 players that I would consider, and like I said, they all have their faults. Schaffelberg, fan favorite, same as Fafa Bako, just the pace, the electric way he plays, the excitement he brings when he's on the pitch is good. But the end product, I think has kind of never been there. It's like 2-3 goals tops a season is what he's maxed out at. So he's always running, he's always creating stuff when he's out there, but the finish is not there. He's not scoring a lot of goals. He's not assisting a lot of goals, which you need more of, and that's something we are desperately in need of at Nashville SC over the years. So he would be in the mix as an exciting player, but just the end product is a little bit of an issue there. On the other side, the other one that I put in the mix, Alex Muyl, came in, I think, early in, I can't remember exactly if he was season 1 or season 2, but came in. He's always been in the squad. He's just always been around. He's not one of my favorite players. I think like he's the epitome of why we have not maybe hit the heights that we wanted to as Nashville SC, just because he is a really solid player. Like, once again, another like Brian Onunga, a player you would want to have in your team. His versatility to be able to play multiple positions, his energy that he plays with, always, covering every blade of grass, running for 90 minutes. It's the type of player you want in your squad, not a type of player you want starting like 90% of your matches, which I feel like he does. Because there was a point last year where I felt like every time we created like a great scoring opportunity, he somehow was the one who was on the end of it and was botching it. But then like when BJ Callahan came in, he actually like started to finish some of those chances. So maybe like the BJ Callahan version of Alex Muyl is going to be a huge upgrade and a huge change. But so far, he still has flaws. But the other player that I put in the mix also has some issues, also has some flaws. That's Randall Leal. season 1 and 2, Randall Leal was, close to being neck and neck with Hani Mukhtar for our best player, the first player in the mix to potentially be a Nashville SC club legend. And then injuries got the best of him. He just got torn apart by injuries, the last 2-3 seasons, just basically never played, just was almost entirely injured throughout the entirety of the season. So that's the biggest flaw against him. I think the high point of Randall Leal is higher than either of those other two players, but, how do you count in the long-term injury issues that just ruined the later stages of his Nashville SC career? That's the kind of debate here for does he get in over those other two? And I went back and forth on this. I kind of debated back and forth, and I ultimately am going with Randall Leal just because I was like looking at it being like, I'm putting Fospico in off one brilliant season. And so the two great seasons Leal had before the injuries took over are definitely higher than anything Will or Schaufelberg have done, as good as they both have been over a longer term period. The peak of Leal is better than the peak of either of those two players. So it's crazy that it seems, as much as he's kind of fallen by the wayside and lost popularity because of his injury issues, I still am putting Randall Leal in my best 11 up for Nashville SC. 2 up top, Hani Mukhtar, easy choice, obvious choice. The only debate with him was like, do you put him as a 10? Do you put him as like a wide player? Where do you put him? He is, for the truth being, like pretty much from season 2 on, he's basically been a forward striker, false 9 type player. He's, as soon as we figured out that he was the player who was going to score all the goals, Gary Smith, and continue with Callahan and Ruben Mutali during his interim period, we put him as close to goal as we can. So he's been basically a second striker. He's not a traditional striker in the sense of that player, but we've always played him high up the pitch, getting him close to goal, trying to get him as many chances to score as we can. So I'm counting him as like a striker in a 4-4-2. I don't see how you could have him. Like I said, the only other option you could be is like you wanted to say it was like a 4-2-3-1 and put him as like a 10 or something like that. But I'm putting him up there. So the last position we have to fill is the second striker, the second part of the 4-4-2, the 2 of the 4-4-2. And this is another one. I think there's 3 choices. Obviously, the current guy, Sam Surridge. You got DJ Sapong, and you've got Jander Cadiz. I think those are the 3 you can make a case for. Cadiz, I think people forget just because he kind of trailed off because he got sick, had the COVID and everything, and then like it was a weird, just that whole period was so weird with everything that was going on in the world, not just soccer, but he kind of trailed off. But like when he was healthy, when he was around his early days, when he was available and fit, he was kind of killing it for Nashville SC. The overtime, or not overtime, but the playoff goals against for us here at Nissan Stadium, electric. And then CJ Sapong, similarly, his first season, like he kind of ruined Ake Loba, because I think, had he not been here, hit the ground running, scored so many goals out of the gate, when Ake Loba came in that summer, he would have been more quickly inserted into the lineup, maybe had more of an opportunity to integrate himself and find his way. But CJ Sapong was just on fire that first season, and Ake Loba, there was no way you could put him in the team over CJ Sapong. But then CJ Sapong went on a just absolutely insane streak where he almost went a full calendar year without scoring a goal, which is insane for a striker who started like every single game. It wasn't like he like dropped and lost his place. He was still starting every single game for Nashville SC in that period, and almost went a calendar year without scoring a goal. We traded him with like 20 days left, and then he scored his very first game for Toronto. And I don't know if he ever scored again after that. I don't think he's in the league anymore at this point in time, but that one season, that brilliant start he had, just how important he was for a stretch for us. Like he was really the first player, like I said, Cadiz had a good stretch, but Sapong was like the first player who gave us a real consistent second threat, second option beyond Hani Mukhtar. But it was really for only one season, and it went off. So I'm going to go with Sam Surridge. He hasn't hit the heights of that first CJ Sapong season, but I think he's consistently been active, been available, been a threat, been dangerous. He hasn't. I think we're going to see more as he gets more chances with this new, more attacking-based team. But I mean, like, I just think he's been more consistent than either of those other two, and kind of got there. I don't think we've seen the peak of him yet. I think the peak is coming. I think we're going to see 15, 20 goals from him this season, with the new setup, with the new way we're playing. So some of this is maybe built on hope, but I do think, his almost now, because half a season he came in midway through his first season, full season last year, 3 games in this year. I think there's enough to look and say there's something good there. He's doing some things that is going to produce once we really, as a team, get going more attacking wise, offensively, scoring goals. So I'm going to go with Sam Surge. That was probably the toughest one just because it's been so inconsistent of who's going to do anything up top beyond Hani. So just to recap and go back through it real quick. This is my first 5 seasons. All-time Nashville SC best 11. Goalkeeper Joe Willis, center backs Dave Romney, Walker Zimmerman, Dan Lovitz left back, Alistair Johnson right back, double pivot center midfield, Anibal Godoy, Dax McCarty. We'll put Fafa Bako on the left wing, Randall Leal on the right wing, up top, Hani Mokhtar, and Sam Surge. Pretty good. Pretty good. Question in the chat: how is the weather right now? I'm in St. Louis. I think the worst of it is kind of passed through. It's still a kind of trickling rain a little bit. There's a rumble of thunder every once in a while, but the severe weather has passed through Nashville, which won't affect the game because we're playing in Philadelphia tomorrow, so no impact on that, at least here locally. But, we're no major issues here. I know St. Louis got hit pretty hard. My wife has coworkers who actually live in St. Louis and said, like, one of her directors or team members, like, their roof got ripped off. So I know St. Louis got hit pretty hard. So I hope everything's okay for you, Heartbreak Productions, because I know it got, pretty bad down that way of the world there. But, here, at least in kind of the immediate Nashville area we had really heavy rain. Wind never picked up, never got too bad. But ultimately, kind of blew through. It was just kind of a heavy storm. Nothing severe, nothing dangerous. I mean, I'm sure we're not in a great time to be out on the roads, I'm sure, just because that heavy rain where you just can't even see where you're driving probably isn't great. But it seems to have mostly cleared out now. I actually am something to kind of preview what might be coming up on the channel here. Going to meet up with a friend to go watch medieval MMA here in downtown Nashville tonight. I'm probably going to do a little vlog of that. So that might be something you can see coming up here on the channel. If you're not subscribed already, subscribe if you want to see that. That's going to be popping up. But yeah, Heartbreak again says, yeah, here in St. Louis, it was awful. Yeah, certainly, we're no strangers to that terrible, weather here in Nashville. We had just had the 5th year anniversary of the 2020 tornadoes that just really, like, my part of Nashville, like, I don't really talk about too much about where I really live, but, I am right where the tornadoes just destroyed chunks of, Hermitage, Donaldson, Mount Juliet, Lebanon. I'm right in that area. So we were 5 years just removed at the start of this month from that period. So no stranger to that. I think we, ended up having a pretty safe day today. So, thoughts, prayers out to those who were affected today. Yeah, St. Louis, from what I heard, was pretty bad. I know there was like a lot of stuff in Alabama too. It sounded like it was pretty bad for Alabama because I know like this was like a spring break week for a lot of the high schools here in Nashville. So there was a lot of people traveling back from Florida that were like trying to avoid getting stuck in it in Alabama and what was going on there. Let's see. Heartbreak says, no, yeah, I'm from Nashville. I drum in the sports section. That's awesome. Love having sports section people pop in here. Love the sports section. Been one of the highlights of Nashville SC throughout our history. Ask, who do you think is going to score the first goal? I feel like, I just hyped him up. I just put him in my best 11 all time. I'm gonna go Sam Surge. I feel like he's due. I feel like he's been knocking on the door. He's been trying to like find a way to get into the lineup. I think with things starting to blossom around him with Sam on one wing, with Muyl running all over the place on the other wing, with Hani kind of buzzing around him, with our midfield threats coming from Yazbek and Tagseth. I think Sam's due. I think it is. I think it's due. I think he is. Like I said, I think he's been solid. Maybe not quite hit the levels you'd want out of a designated player striker, but I think a lot of that has been the way we played, the team that's been around him, and I think some of that's really going to start to click into place, start to hit. And if I was gonna bet somebody first goal tomorrow, I would bet Sam Surge. I think it's his time. I think the goal's coming for him. I think his time is coming. I think he is right on the cusp of, like I said it earlier, like the team kind of broke the dam last week. I think this is, maybe the start this week where Sam kind of breaks what's the old saying? He breaks his duck. And I think that's what we say in soccer when like a player gets their first goal. And then I think there's going to be a lot more to come from Sam from there. I need Yaz to score. He's good enough to. Yeah, I think he's a player that I think is quietly going to be very. He hasn't got quite the headlines that some of the other players like Kasam and Tag Seth. I don't know if it's because he kind of came in last year, had a little bit of that weird controversy deal last year, but I think he's awesome. Like I mean, when he came in 2 weeks ago against New York, replacing Cochran, and he either came in for Cochran or Meyer, but the second he came in, the game just changed. Like his versatility, his dynamic style play, where he's not just like a sit there and recycle the play midfielder, where he gets around, he moves around, he's got the ball moving, he's making good passes. I think he's got goals in him too. So yeah, he's going to be. I think he's quietly, secretly one of our key players this season. Is going to be Yaz back. So be interesting to watch. I can't wait. It's kind of a good time for a match tomorrow. Like I'm looking forward to having kind of a Sunday afternoon matinee match as opposed to like these, local time 7:30. For a man of my age, 7:30 on a Saturday night is not the best start time. So not the best start time for me. But I'm looking forward to like a matinee Sunday match. Just go out, enjoy the match, be able to come back home, kind of rest and recover and get ready for the work week ahead. Meyer most likely will score 2. He had a good shot in his first game. Yeah, he seems to be like that kind of dude. Like, I don't know that he's like the beat anybody on the dribble, kind of be all over the place type player, but he seems to have good game intelligence where he knows where he should be. And that's the type of like midfielder that can get goals where like he might just be lingering at the top of the box. He knows, there's going to be a chance, there's going to be a cutback pass there, find a goal here and there. I think he'll be interesting. I think he'll still get some chances just because, Costa's still out. Brugman's still working his way back from injury. So I think we're still going to see Cochran. We're still going to see some of Meyer. But I definitely like what I saw from him. I think there's promise from both those players to go moving forward. But I'm kind of glad that we don't have to fully rely on them. I'm glad we got Yaz back and some other players coming back into the mix in that area of the field. But like I said earlier, my prediction for the match tomorrow, 2-2 draw. I'll take that, a point on the road to Philadelphia, a team we have not had. I think Philadelphia, if I had 3 teams, I just think Nashville SC has never done good against amongst teams that we play like kind of all the time. The 3 that I always think to are Red Bull New York, Philadelphia, and Toronto for whatever reason. Like my guy, Richard Greenberg, like even though they've not been that great the last couple of years, I feel like every time we played Toronto, they beat us. So I think we were like 1-4-5 or 1-3-5. Like we've only won once against Philadelphia, drawn a few, but they've won most of them. So like Philadelphia is one of those thorn in the side teams for us. So if we can get a draw on the road at Philadelphia, that's a step in the right direction for me. That's what I'm looking for tomorrow. 2-2 is my prediction. We'll watch the match. We'll see what happens. It's weird timing. United. I got my United jersey on for some reason in this video, but overlapping games. Manchester United plays like 2:00 on a Sunday. Nashville SC plays at 1:30. It's going to be interesting to try to watch both games at the same time, but should make for a fun Sunday of soccer and footy. And like I said, got some fun stuff coming up on the channel beyond soccer as well. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who jumped in the chat. It was a fun one as always. We'll be back with more content. Subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications if you haven't done so already. And as always, enjoy your life. Enjoy your bagels. Come on, you boys in gold. Good night.